everybody. It's a little bit dark here. How are you doing? It's Thursday. You could be watching football, but that would be lame as opposed to tuning in here. My name is Stuart Davis. I'm a flawed man of God. I'm a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor, not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. Not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause, but what I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about Christianity, the Bible, different aspects, give you what insights I can. And I look through the eyes of myself, been a Christian my whole life, non-denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination, just in the Word, day in and day out, trying to do it better than I did the previous day. So if you are new to Christianity, if you are somebody who is looking for more meaning than your existence here on earth, welcome to the show. Glad you're here. I welcome you. Please, by all means, tune in and let this be amateur, um, an amateur primer on Christianity. Hopefully, it helps springboard you into a relationship with God. If you are, um, if you are already a Christian and you just enjoy discussions on Christian topics and discussions on issues that surround Christianity from within the church and without, welcome as well. Glad you guys are here. No matter where you stand in the religious spectrum, we would love for you to be part of our chat. The chat is up. We have a good collection of folks who come in regularly, and you are very welcome to be one of them. Love to have you in, or if you just want to listen, that's fine too. But like I said, we have a small group operates very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. And one of the good advantages of having a kind of a small community that we have here is that if you put something in the chat, I can read it. So, with that said, I know, folks, that there is a difference in the lighting tonight. I have a sick child in the room with me, reclining and falling asleep on the futon. So hope he gets better. Hasn't been feeling all that well. And let me just do some camera adjustments here. Hasn't been feeling all that well today, so he stayed home from school, hung out with me while I was working, and I'll keep an eye on him tonight. The wife will be watching the daughter, who is also not feeling all that well. So, and extra boomer tonight, because I'm drinking one of my favorite drinks. That's Fresca. That is a boomer throwback, big time, and one that I thoroughly enjoy. So, how's everybody doing tonight? It's been a few nights. Tuesday, I was doing some church business. Met with some of the elders to talk about some church things at a restaurant, and it's something we try to do once a month or so, and it's great fellowship, and it helps us get down into the business of the church, as opposed to just the highs and the friendly camaraderie that we enjoy while we're at church. I am good friends with one of them, and the other one I'm pretty good friends with as well, but don't know him as well. But we did get to talk about things like security. That was tonight. That was this evening's or this previous evening's topic of discussion. That's something that I am involved in, the security of the church. So that was good. Kind of get things off, because there's more to security of a church than there's much more to the security of the church than the just waiting for an active shooter. That is a very small chance that somebody comes in, kind of a 1 in a million shot. You want to be prepared for it, but the odds are that if you're going to have a church emergency, it's going to be something more along the lines of a custody issue, a domestic issue of some sort going on, or a medical issue. A lot of old folks at church, just no getting around that, having a medical issue, or somebody just trying to cause some sort of disturbance for social media points or whatever. They happen. Nothing has happened, at least since I've been here, but we have had some incidents around the city where something like that will happen. So you always want to be prepared, and that was some of the things we were talking about. We have things in place, but it's always good to talk with it to your leadership to make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page. What do we need to do? Are there new people that we need to bring on board? Stuff like that. Small church, it's kind of it's much easier to manage. Bigger churches, the bigger the church, all the infrastructure ends up being, more complicated. So luckily it's easy to handle here. And so that was great. And good thing I did cancel the stream because we were there from we met at 6:30, didn't end up getting out of there till 9, a little bit after 9. So get home till 9:30. So that was good. But I had every intention on streaming yesterday, but I had sick kids, just kind of trying to manage that, and nobody in the house was feeling all that well. I was feeling a little meh. So, but anyway, welcome Nico, welcome Dresden, welcome anybody else. I gotta get a like if you. Oh, and let me go ahead and put this out there. If you like what you hear out here, please on this channel, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you get a heads up when I start streaming. It's pretty much weekdays, Monday through Friday. I do it as this is an amateur stream. I don't do this professionally. It's not my job. It is a hobby, and it is a mission point that I've established. But I need to make sure that I take care of myself and my family before I get on the stream. But generally, get on here usually between 8 and 8:30 and stream for an hour or so. We'll see how long it lasts tonight. So Nico said, still glorious beard tonight. Look, and no intentions on trimming it. There is a reason why. There is a reason why this beard keeps getting longer and longer. And I will let you guys know the meaning behind that in due time. I will let you guys in, but it is not the time to let you know yet. Get well soon, little ones. Thank you. I'm sure they will. It's going to be supposed to be they're saying it's going to be a rough year for the cold. We'll see. And rough year for the flu. They were supposed to get their flu shots today, but because they were feeling under the weather, we went ahead and rescheduled. Stupid Zoomers showing up to church with TikTok. Not necessarily Zoomers, but you will see people with different organizations. Specifically, the Catholic Church has been targeted more than others because of their stance on abortion and stuff like that. There are folks who are angry, who will do things like get up and be disruptive, videotape it. What they want to do is show, get points for going out and being edgy and disruptive. And number two, the other thing is to get the people of the congregation acting in a way that does not represent Christianity well. So the question is, if somebody starts up and starts yelling in the middle of the sermon, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that in a way that if the person's legitimately mentally ill or legitimately just protesting on their own, that you handle that in the proper way versus if they're doing it and somebody's recording them because they want to send it to the news or put it on Facebook or whatever. It doesn't happen often, but it happens enough that you want to be prepared for it. And it's much more likely that something like that will happen at your church than a mass shooting. So, because like I said, that's a one in a few million shot right there. All right. Well, letting folks roll in about 10 minutes in here. Like I said, I'm not gonna draw this out. I've got the lights off. Hopefully the kid's drifting off. And I think he's looking at me right now, though, grinning at me and making farting noises, as one does at his age. Shh. Shh. So, anyway, so as we were talking about on Monday, I think was the last time we talked, the David and Saul issue getting more and more complicated by the day. Nika says that's an interesting question. Who has the authority to drag tards off the church property? That will vary church by church. But I won't get into our policy and everything, and I won't try to answer for other churches either. But I will say you kind of got to run a fine line because, again, you're in church. The last thing you want is violence in a sanctuary, violence in the house of God. You want to handle things amicably and as good as witnesses as possible in those events. And that's because we're trying to represent ourselves well for everyone, right? So, where was I at? Oh yeah. So things between Saul and David had soured greatly. Not really because of any of David's doing, or you could say it was much of David's doing, but nothing malicious from David. David's just doing his thing, being a nice guy, going out and being a warrior, being a hero, being popular, being a friend, being a husband, and all of this stuff had Saul, who is king, right? He should be in the point. He should have the position. We talk about power dynamics and everything that other people like to bring up. He's got the leverage there, right? Well, we know why he doesn't feel like he has any leverage, because he doesn't, because God has abandoned his blessing from Saul as king because of all the mistakes that Saul has made out of selfishness and whatnot. And while he hasn't condemned Saul, he has basically said, you are no longer fit to be king. And so I'm going to appoint another more worthy person to take your place. And again, we've talked about it before. Saul's unwillingness to either step aside or humble himself when presented with this is part of the reason why he's in the position that he is. And he doesn't seem to ever take himself out of that position, right? He doesn't stop being who he is. He's always reverting to type. He is always going to be in love with the trappings of being the king, in love with the power, in love with all the things, right? And that's his problem. That's his big problem. He's not putting God first. And one of the things that was supposed to be about a king is king's supposed to be ruling over the people, but he's supposed to be kind of that intermediate. He's supposed to be doing the will of God, and he hasn't. And this is what God warns the Israelites about when they demand they don't demand. They beg for a king. When they beg for a king, and even they are given warnings, you don't want a king. This is what there are problems that result with having a king. Nope, give us one. Fine. You're going to get what you asked for, and you're not going to like it. And I guess the good thing behind that is, have you ever asked for something from God and gotten it and realized it was terrible? It's a terrible thing to ask for. You want it so bad, and you think it's going to be so great, and you get it. That's terrible. And it ends up being just a major inconvenience or a big obstacle or an addiction or something like that that doesn't actually bring you the happiness in life that you think it was going to. Nico says, at this point, Saul already knows David is going to be next king, right? I don't know. I think he might be suspecting, but I don't think we've actually seen that. I think he's worried. I don't think he knows whether or not God is going to place him. I think he might have suspicions there, but he might also suspect that just David, because he's so popular, is just going to naturally get to a point where David says, I should be king. And then everybody will turn on Saul and David will be king. Saul doesn't want that. Because Saul loves being king. Stop wanting to be king. And here's a big problem. And I might have talked about this before. We see this with big, famous people within the church, within Christianity, where they end up reaching a point where they are stumbling, where they are not in a place where they have sinned and need to step down. The best thing for them to do is step down, but they can't and they won't for whatever reason, whether it's because their pride won't let them, or they really do want to be a bad actor, or they really do love themselves more than the position. I do not know. But so many pastors and whatnot slip and fall into deep folly where they cannot really represent the faith the way that they do. They don't want to they don't want to give it up. They don't want to give up the popularity, the money, and all the other stuff that they get. That's my problem with mega churches. That's my problem with celebrity Christians, not Christians who are, or celebrities who are Christians, but celebrities within the Christian sphere. The big names, because so many of them are either corrupted by that or were in that to begin with to take advantage of other people. Saul's a great cautionary tale here. Think of him as the Titanic of the Bible. So when we last left, David had actually ran to Canaanites or Philistines. He is out there with the heathen tribes, acting like a crazy man, and and the king of where he was acting like a crazy man, I think he didn't want him around. And so this is where we'll pick up in chapter 22. He is on the run from Saul, and he has fled because Saul has tried to kill him, and Saul is now really, really out to kill him, to the point where he almost tried to kill Saul almost killed his own son out of anger because his son helped him. I said, once you start falling like that, people are surprised at what they will do and who they will hurt in the pursuit of their addiction. In this case, Saul's addiction is with the kingship. David, so here we go, chapter 22. David at Adullam, and Mizpah. David left Gath and escaped to the cave of Adullam. When his brothers and his father's household heard about it, they went down there to him. All those who were in distress or in debt or discontented gathered around him, and he became their commander. About 400 men were with him. Okay. 400 men, small house. He's very inconsequential where David comes from. It's a big family, but still small house. And it sounds like he's getting kind of a band of misfits together as well. People who are, like I said, in debt, distressed, discontented, kind of the outsiders and the castaways. These guys are gravitating to David because guess what? David's popular with pretty much everyone in Israel but Saul. So it's probably not hard for him to get his entourage together. From there, David went to Mizpah in Moab and said to the king of Moab, "Would you let my father and mother come and stay with you until I learn what God will do for me?" So he left them with the king of Moab and stayed there with him as long as David was in the stronghold. Wow. Be interesting to see how that goes, how that went over. Like Moab, I mean, there wasn't necessarily any love lost between them, but apparently there was a great deal of respect. And maybe the king of Moab thought it would be good to show up Saul, the king of a rival nation, if he's hiding, one of his, or hosting one of David's family, David's parents, who is a rival upstart within the nation. He probably understands that it's going to cause even more fracturing of the nation, and that makes when Israel is weak, Moab is stronger, right? Probably pretty smart of the king of Moab to do this. But the prophet Gad said to David, "Do not stay in the stronghold. Go into the land of Judah." So David left and went to the forest of Hereth. Right. Saul kills the priests of Nob. All right, going back, let's go back to David when he was first running goes to Nob. I think that's like the first place he runs to. Ahimelech the priest is there. He asks for aid and he gives him, but he says he's doing it on behalf of the king. Asks for food. So let's see what happens. Obviously, he kills priests of Nob. Now Saul had heard that David and his men had been discovered, and Saul was seated, spear in hand, under the tamarisk tree in the hill at Gibeah, with all his officials standing at his side. He said to them, "Listen, men of Benjamin, will the son of Jesse give all your fields and vineyards? Will he make all of you commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds? Is that why you have all conspired against me? No one tells me when my son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse. None of you is concerned about me or tells me that my son has incited my servant to lie in wait for me as he does today." So he's yelling at his court to people that what's going on? Has David turned you all against me? Do you all are a bunch of traitorous pigs out here? Why did nobody tell me that this was going on? Well, probably because your court understands that you're a lunatic and that David's not a bad guy. Is this guy's name Doge? It looks like Doge. We'll call him Doge. It's not spelled the same way you would say Doge, but it looks close enough that that's what we're going to do. But Doge the Edomite, who was standing with Saul's officials, said, "I saw the son of Jesse come to Ahimelech, son of Ahitub of Nob." Ahimelech inquired of the Lord for him. He also gave him provisions and the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Oh, welcome, Blaine. How's it going? Hey, Blaine, real quick. So my son stayed home from school today. He watched Pokemon Sun and Moon for 9 hours. It's his favorite series of Pokemon. So he put that on and watched that nonstop. And then afterwards, we watched some Gundam Wing because he knows as soon as he finishes the Gundam Wing, we can start putting together those action figure models. Anyway, Ahimelech inquired of the Lord for him. He also gave him provisions and the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Well, Doge just gonna rat his buddy out, just rat these guys out, and be like, "Oh, well, I know that those guys did a whole lot." Then the king sent for the priest Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, and all the men of his family, who were the priests at Nob, and they all came to the king. And Saul said, "Listen now, son of Ahitub." "Yes, my lord." Saul said to him, "Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, giving him bread and a sword and inquiring of God for him, so that he has rebelled against me and lies in wait for me, as he does today?" Ahimelech answered the king, "Who of all your servants is as loyal as David, the king's son-in-law, captain of your bodyguard, and highly respected in your household, not to mention pretty good musician?" Plays a mean leer. "Was that day the first time I inquired of God for him? Of course not. Let not the king accuse your servant or any of his father's family, for your servant knows nothing about this whole affair." Ahimelech getting a little bold. And again, this is what I think we're seeing the fracturing of Saul's support is because he's doing all this stuff. Nobody really understands why he's doing this stuff about David. He's calling him a conspirator and all this other stuff. David has not said that we've seen anywhere in scripture here yet. David has not said, I'm king and you're not. He hasn't taken up arms against Saul. All he has done is been defensive and run away from Saul when he does things like throws a spear at him or tries to pin him with the spear to the wall. It's silly. It's silly. And I think Ahimelech is basically seeing this. And he's like, look, he's the most loyal guy. He is your son-in-law. He is the captain of your bodyguard. He's highly respected, all this other stuff. And now you're accusing me of helping him in apparently this imagined rebellion. And I don't really think you really know what's going on or what you're talking about. Maybe come across a little bit disrespectful. But the king said, you will surely die, Ahimelech, you and your whole family. Then the king ordered the guards at his side, turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because they too have sided with David. They knew he was fleeing, yet they did not tell me. But the king's officials were unwilling to raise a hand to strike the priests of the Lord. Probably because he said it like that. Turn and kill the priests of the Lord. Not only that, it also proves to Ahimelech's point, they knew he was fleeing, yet they did not tell me. They didn't know he was fleeing. David told them, I am doing this on behalf of the king. This is why I will need these provisions. Saul, it's mistake after mistake with Saul. He is crazy. He is a lunatic right now. And the king's officials are like, are you gonna? I'm not killing a priest. I'm not killing one of God's men. I'm not doing that. What does that make me if I do something like that? Saul knows. Then the king ordered Doge, you turn and strike down the priests. So Doge, the Edomite, turned and struck them down. That day he killed 85 men who wore the linen ephod. That's a massacre, guys. Oh, wow. That day he killed 85 men who wore the linen ephod. He also put to the sword Nob, the town of the priests, with its men and women, its children and infants, and its cattle, donkeys, and sheep. All right, Nico. Where's your I know, and I'm not doing this to make fun of you or call you out or anything, but because this was something we talked about at the beginning. He felt sympathy for Saul because it kind of felt like he was set up for failure. And it's one thing to fail. It's another thing to double down on it in the face of God and commit acts of great evil. And that's where we've got Saul at right now. 85 priests, an entire town massacred, men, women, and children. Oh, also the cattle, the donkeys, and the sheep. Saul's lost it. He's lost the plot completely. And this is going to reflect poorly on him with the Israelites. And this is one of the issues that you have when you have a king, right? Because we are always, and this is credit to Saul's court and his officials. When he told them to strike down the priests, they said no. But you'll always find a sycophant. And Doge is a perfect example here. At some point, he passed the point of empathy. This is really where he hits the wall on it, right? Because I understand the paranoia and everything, and some of it's the madness and everything. This is beyond that. But you find sycophants like Doge who are eager to turn in Ahimelech and the town of Nob. This all comes down. This, as much as this weighs on Saul, a lot of this is on Doge as well. Eager to do it. Oh, your court won't? I will. Wants favor. He wants to curry favor. And he will do it. He will not let evil deeds stand in his way. He'll commit them. These people are out there. This is one of the I try to talk to my son and my daughter about the internet. Not so much with my daughter because it's harder for her to understand at her age, but my son, especially now, as he gets older and gets, you know, more access to the internet, try. It's difficult to get a child to understand that there are evil people in the world who want to do evil things, who are willing to do evil things to pursue whatever sins that they are addicted to, or just the fact that they don't care, don't believe in God, don't care that there is right and wrong in this world. They don't do anything, because how do you explain to a child that somebody exists like that, especially a kid that's got a great heart, who understands justice to some degree, understands right and wrong better than many of these people? Why do these people exist? It's difficult for a kid to wrap their head around that because they haven't been around the world enough to really seen that these people do exist. That naivete is, it's precious, but at the same time it's concerning, because it's just like, I wish the world was more like you, but it's not. Blaine says, worse, there are people who look good seeking evil. Yeah. Oh yeah. And even ones that, and there are ones that are obviously evil, like our Kenneth Copelands out there. Um, and folks still don't pick it up. Folks still don't realize it because he's preaching some perverted version of the word. Nika said Saul's initial feelings and actions may deserve empathy, but he lost it when he repeatedly refuses to see the truth that it is God's will in David. Exactly. Like I said, I don't want to give up my seat. The right thing, and I think the true path to Saul's redemption would be Saul telling David, you deserve this. You deserve this seat more than I do. Or Saul, that might be getting ahead of myself, because I think that David's been anointed, but all the actions probably need to come through God. But Saul letting basically David take the lead in all the things that he needed to do, because he sees the goodness and he sees the blessing in the Lord. And if the Lord is smiling on somebody, you kind of want to give them as much rope as possible, right? You want to give them as long of a leash as you can, because they're doing God's word. But he's rebuked his son already for doing something similar. But yeah, that's Nico. I think that comment's very, very on point, very real. He lost it when he repeatedly refuses to see the truth, and what we see here is just this is where it leads. When we talk about, this is an example of, we talk about the slippery slope of, start doing the thing. Why sin is bad. Why is sin bad? There was a tweet somebody was talking about. I don't think drunkenness is immoral, and they were explaining, drunkenness and the same categories as other things. I said drunkenness is immoral, and somebody goes, even if you're at home and not driving. I was like, yeah, it still is. It's still immoral. Alcoholism is something doing, and this is drunkenness in the sense of alcoholism, right? Um, it's still a harm for you. It's still a harm to your family. It still puts you in a position where you're not me. Maybe you don't go at home. You can't just say, oh, well, I just do it here. If you're struggling with it, that's one thing, but don't try to absolve it as something good, or try to pass it off as something that isn't bad. I think that's where so many people within Christianity and outside of Christianity lose the point, right? Alcoholism is a good place to start, because a lot of us know an alcoholic. Maybe some of us have dealt with alcoholism, maybe currently dealing with alcoholism. Consistent drunkenness and addiction to alcohol is immoral. You shouldn't be doing that. It is sinful. All right. It is sinful. It is sinful in nature. That doesn't mean you are. That doesn't mean God doesn't love you. That doesn't mean God doesn't want you to repent. What He wants you to do is to at least, at the very least, acknowledge that what you're doing is wrong, and attempt to take steps to move yourself away from it. But people get upset when you point out that something's wrong because they like to do it. They don't want to stop. They don't want to stop, and they don't want to be told it's bad. They don't want to be looked at as they feel it's demeaning. And kind of it is. You're demeaning yourself by doing this. That doesn't mean you look down on somebody who's suffering from alcohol. I mean, yeah, I think that they're deserving of pity in many cases, because we all struggle with the sins. I mean, alcoholism is just the example we're using here, and it's easy to find those people, right? Because it's very pervasive in our society. Doesn't mean we look down on them, which is the problem one of the problems within the church. They want to look down on folks and be like, "Oh, these people are sinning." Blah, 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 blah. If a person is truly suffering, you do what you can and struggling and trying to make the effort to overcome their alcoholism. You should be doing what you can to help. And if a person is not concerned about it at all, it is kind of your job to let them know that what they are doing is wrong. And if they brush you off, if they tell you you're being overly judgmental, you're just a Bible hugging, Jesus freak, that's on them. Doesn't mean somebody needs to come behind them and say, and say to you, you need to stop telling them that what they're doing is wrong, because that's not very Christian of you. No, it's incredibly loving to try to tell somebody that they're on the wrong place. It's why once a year I abstain for a month to make sure it isn't a crutch. I mean, abstain from getting drunk every night. Get drunk every night, or just drinking something. Drinking alcohol is not a sin. Jesus is first, and I know, and I'm not picking at you, Blaine, or thinking that you don't know this, but what a lot of people don't. A lot of people, when they find out that I'm a deacon, like if I'm at work and they find out that I'm a deacon, and they hear me talking about, oh yeah, I had a drink over the weekend, or a couple of drinks over the weekend. They're like, you drink? I'm like, yeah, wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? You go to church. It's like, yeah. Jesus's first miracle is turning water into wine. The Last Supper is very wine centric. The communion or the Eucharist, however you want to show it, it's all centers around it. Now, some of us lower church folk use just the grape juice, and then other places use actual wine, which I think is based. But I don't like wine. I don't like wine. So I'm an attendant of the Church of the First Miracle. Amen on that one. I enjoy a good drink. I enjoy drinking until I got a good buzz going. I don't do it hardly. I don't do it very often, but I do. And I don't have a problem with people who drink socially, and don't drink to excess regularly, right? That's the difference. Drunkenness is not just drinking. Drunkenness is alcoholism, at least the way I see it. Alcoholism in the family, though, so it's just a good check on myself. Addiction overall in my family, which is shown up a few times as alcoholism, runs in my family as well. And what it has done to to the family members around those folks that have suffered from it, has been sad. As well as the other addictions, mostly it has materialized outwardly in my family as substance abuse and alcohol abuse. So, and has done great damage to my family. I think I've conquered it by replacing it with an anime addiction. Demonic. Cartoons are demonic. As that guy said, dude. Can you imagine how never mind. I want to just think. Anyway, let's get back down to things. But one son of Ahimelech, son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, because apparently A's running the name or running the family, escaped and fled to join David. He told David that Saul had killed the priests of the Lord. Then David said to Abiathar, that day when Doeg the Edomite was there, I knew he would be sure to tell Saul, I am responsible for the death of your whole family. Stay with me. Don't be afraid. The man who wants to kill you is trying to kill me too. You will be safe with me. Sounds like David saw the man in the crowd or in the group and knew he was sus. Knew that man was sus. And that's what David does. And I'm sure David's very irritated. He's probably if he's taking this personally and taking this on himself, that's probably a deep amount of sorrow and regret that he's feeling. So David saves Keilah. Chapter 23. When David was told, look, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah and are looting the threshing floors, he inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go and attack these Philistines? The Lord answered him, go, attack the Philistines and save Keilah. But David's men said to him, here in Judah we are afraid. How much more then if we go to Keilah against the Philistine forces? And once again David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered him, go down to Keilah, for I am going to give the Philistines into your hand. So David and his men went to Keilah, fought the Philistines, and carried off their livestock. He inflicted heavy losses on the Philistines and saved the people of Keilah. Now Abiathar, son of Ahimelech, had brought the ephod down with him when he fled to David at Keilah. So David's got himself a priest. And a priest from a pretty decent family, from what I understand, from what we've seen. So hopefully he's going to represent pretty well. But here's David saying, look, there's a town we need to see. They're in trouble. Can I save them? And God says, yeah, do it. And I think part of that reason is God understands that Israel's not exactly, again, we go back, David's not, I don't think the announcement has come that David is king, right? That challenge hasn't really popped up. People still think that Saul is the anointed one, the chosen king of God. So if a person is righteous, maybe he's not feeling up to going out there and rebelling against the chosen king of God. Saul pursues David. Saul was told that David had gone to Keilah, and he said, God has delivered him into my hands. Yeah, fat chance. What you just killed 85 priests. For David has imprisoned himself by entering a town with gates and bars. And Saul called up all his forces for battle to go down to Keilah and besiege David and his men. When David learned that Saul was plotting against him, he and Abiathar the priest, bring the ephod. Abiathar, bring the ephod. The heavy ephod. David said, Lord God of Israel, your servant has heard definitely that Saul plans to come to Keilah and destroy the town on account of me. Will the citizens of Keilah surrender me to him? Will Saul come down, as your servant has heard? Lord God of Israel, tell your servant. And the Lord said, he will. And David asks, will the citizens of Keilah surrender me and my men to Saul? And the Lord said, they will. So David and his men, about 600 in number, hey, man's growing, forces are growing, left Keilah and kept moving from place to place. When Saul was told that David had escaped from Keilah, he did not go there. Oh, to avoid wiping out another one of your towns? By the way, they're all taxpayers too. Maybe that's why he didn't. David stayed in the wilderness strongholds and in the hills of the desert of Ziph. Day after day, Saul searched for him, but God did not give David into his hands. Oh, like Saul thought he had. While David was at Horesh in the desert of Ziph, he learned that Saul had come out to take his life. And Saul's son, Jonathan, went to David at Horesh and helped him find strength in God. Do not be afraid, he said. My father Saul will not lay a hand on you. You will be king over Israel. I will be second to you. Even my father Saul knows this. There we go. The two of them made a covenant before the Lord. Then Jonathan went home, but David remained at Horesh. The Ziphites went up to Saul at Gibeah and said, Is not David hiding among us in the strongholds at Horesh, on the hills of Hakilah, south of Jeshimon? Now, your majesty, come down whenever it pleases you to do so, and we will be responsible for giving him into your hands. Saul replied, The Lord bless you for your concern for me. Go and get more information. Find out where David usually goes and who has seen him there. They tell me he is very crafty. The white wizard, moving here and there. Find out about all the hiding places he uses and come back to me with definite information. Then I will go with you. If he is in that area, I will track him down among all the clans of Judah. So they set out and went to Ziph ahead of Saul. Now David and his men were in the desert of Maon, in the Arabah, south of Jeshimon. Saul and his men began the search, and when David was told about it, he went down to the rock and stayed in the desert of Maon. When Saul heard this, he went to the desert of Maon in pursuit of David. They strike again. Yeah. Saul was going alongside one of the Saul was going along one side of the mountain. David and his men were on the other side of them, hurrying to get away from Saul. As Saul and his forces were closing in on David and his men to capture them, a messenger came to Saul saying, Come quickly, the Philistines are raiding the land. Then Saul broke off his pursuit of David and went to meet the Philistines. And that is why they call this place Selah Hamaleketh. Of course. And David went up from there and lived in the strongholds of En-Gedi. So there we go. I wonder who prompted the Philistines to attack the Israelites. Not that that's difficult. Everybody knows that Israel is weak right now. They have a weak leader. They have strife going on. And his focus, his attention is focused on David, a man who is loyal to him, more loyal to God, but in being honest and true in his service to Saul. Everybody's paying attention. The righteous are paying attention. The sycophants are paying attention. The allies are paying attention. The enemies are taking attention. Paying attention. So Saul is falling apart, but still strong enough to hang on. I wonder how much longer he can hang on. We'll find out as we read through here. But tomorrow night is Friday night, and that is a casual night. It's a casual night. And so that will be what we're focusing on. So think about topics that you'd like to talk about, bring them up, and we will talk about all of them. Maybe. Anyways, guys, have a very good night. Thank you for tuning in. Blaine, Nico, Dresden. Not a very talkative stream tonight, but as far as with a lot of folks participating. But thanks for being here. Thanks for joining in. Whether you're listening or in the chat, doesn't matter. Glad you're here. And we'll get together tomorrow night. All right, guys. Have a very good night, and God bless.